I had her lipstick on my neck, and her perfume still clinging to my blouse, when the front door creaked open. At first, I thought it was Ivan, my husband. My blood froze. I nearly shoved Dean off me in a panic. But then I heard her voice.
Calm.
Measured. Too calm. "Do not stop on my account," Arlene said. My mother-in-law stood at the doorway, grocery bag in one hand, judgment in her eyes. But instead of rage, she smiled. Slowly, like a secret slipping through her teeth. And then she said something I still cannot erase from my mind. "I have always wondered what it would feel like to be with a woman like you." That was the day my life, my reality, split down the middle. What started as a foolish affair became a twisted trap I never saw coming.
And Arlene?
She was never just a mother-in-law.
She was the architect.
Before I dive deeper into this story, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. If you are subscribed to this channel, I truly appreciate you. You are the reason these stories live, breathe, and continue to grow. To all new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, thank you for watching, and I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the energy that powers this channel and keeps these stories alive. Do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all. Every reaction matters, and every voice adds to this powerful community.
Now,
let us get back to the moment everything changed. My name is Lydia. I am 33. I live in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, Illinois, in a house that feels more like a tomb than a home. I've been married to Ivan for 7 years. We met in college, got married young, and settled into a life that looked perfect on the outside. But inside, it was empty. Ivan loved order, schedules, silence. And I just wanted to feel something. Arlene, my mother-in-law, moved in with us after her husband died 3 years ago. She said she needed support, but the truth was, she liked control. She always had a sharp eye on everything and everyone. Then came Dean. He was my coworker at the ad agency.
Charming.
Clever. Dangerously kind. The kind of man who noticed things my husband never did. My new haircut. The sadness behind my smile. The bruises on my spirit. Dean and I started spending late nights at the office. Then drinks. Then secrets. One moment I was sitting next to him on a conference table. The next, I was tearing open a door I could never close again. We started meeting at hotels at first. Quick, guilty, euphoric.
Then,
I got careless. I invited him over one afternoon when Ivan was at work. I thought Arlene would be out shopping for her Sunday roast supplies. But Arlene had a habit of being everywhere and nowhere all at once. She was the kind of woman who always knew more than she said. That day, Dean had just pressed me against the hallway wall when we heard the door open.
I remember the terror in my chest.
The stillness. Like time stopped. And then Arlene appeared. Not horrified. Not shouting.
Just
watching. I started stammering apologies, reaching for excuses, covering myself up. But Arlene did not blink. She set down her grocery bag like nothing had happened. "I always suspected Ivan was too cold for you," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "You deserve something more."
Alive.
Dean was speechless. I was shaking. Then Arlene stepped forward, and what she said next unspooled the thread of my sanity. "I have always been curious. You are beautiful, Lydia. And I have imagined this more than once." That was not just curiosity in her voice. It was ownership, possession, and I realized I was not the one breaking rules that day. I had walked straight into hers. There are moments in life when time slows down, not because of beauty, but because of terror. That was me, standing half-dressed in my own hallway, heart pounding in my ears, trying to make sense of the words my mother-in-law had just said. "I have imagined this more than once." Dean looked at me, silently asking what the hell was happening. I had no answer. Arlene just stood there, one hand still resting on the wall, eyes darting between us like she was choosing a flavor, not confronting a betrayal. And then, without waiting for permission, she walked past us into the living room.
Calm. Certain.
Like she owned the place. Because in many ways,
She did.
it did not end there. That night, I could not sleep. Dean had left in a panic. I expected Arlene to explode at dinner, maybe threaten to tell Ivan. But she said nothing. She served roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and even offered me extra gravy. The silence was worse than any screaming. 2 days later, she called me into her room.
Said she wanted to talk.
What followed was not a lecture.
It was.
Unsettling. She told me she understood loneliness. She said she, too, had felt ignored for decades. That she had married a man for status and lost herself in motherhood and social masks. And then, she said something I will never forget. You and I are not so different, Lydia. We crave power in places we are not allowed to have it. I tried to tell her it was a mistake, that Dean and I were done, that I felt ashamed. But she just smiled and said, "No, you do not. Not yet. But you will." The shift happened quickly after that. Arlene started inserting herself everywhere. She would touch my arm when no one was watching, whisper compliments in my ear. She made jokes about catching Dean and me mid-romance, with a smug glint in her eye. It was not flirtation, it was domination. And then came the night that changed everything. It was after another late shift at work. Dean and I were in the car outside my house, arguing. He was pulling away, nervous about what Arlene might do. "I do not know what game she is playing," he said, "but I am not going to be part of it." Just then my phone buzzed. One new text. From Arlene. "Tell Dean to come in. I have been waiting." He turned pale when he read it over my shoulder. "I think she is watching us," he muttered.
She was.
When we stepped inside, she was in the den, wine glass in hand, candles lit like it was a dinner party. What happened that night was not violent. It was not even sexual in any explicit way. It was worse, it was psychological. She talked, asked questions, made suggestions, invited tension into the room like a guest. I remember sitting on that couch between the man I was cheating with and the mother of the man I married, and feeling owned. But the real horror came a week later. Dean broke it off, said he needed space, said it all felt engineered. That was the word he used. Engineered. And he was right. Because 3 nights after that, I found something in Arlene's study. I was looking for a photo album and stumbled across a leather folder. Inside, printed emails, photos, screenshots, all of me and Dean, conversations, phone records, even receipts. She had been tracking us. Before she ever walked in that day, she knew, and she waited. I confronted her, screamed at her, demanded to know why she kept all of it. And Arlene, in her calm, razor-edged voice, said, "Because I needed leverage. You are not just a daughter-in-law, Lydia. You are an asset." She leaned closer. "And Ivan? He is not the one I care about protecting. The family is. The estate. The legacy. You married in, sweetheart. But I never said you were free." In that moment, I realized I was not just part of an affair. I was inside a game I never knew I was playing. And Arlene? She was not just playing it. She was winning. By the time I realized what Arlene had done, it was already too late. I thought I was having an affair. I thought I was the one hiding the secret, sneaking around, breaking hearts in silence. But I was not the one pulling the strings. I was just another puppet in Arlene's theater. The folder of evidence was only the beginning. After confronting her, I tried to distance myself. I told Ivan I needed time apart. I even told Dean to cut off all contact. But Arlene was always 3 moves ahead. She started acting like nothing happened. She brought me coffee in the morning, watched soap operas with me in the afternoon. But the smile she wore was hollow, like a blade wrapped in silk. One morning, while Ivan was in the shower, she leaned in and whispered, "You can try to run, Lydia, but I already own your ending." I was not sure what she meant until the lawyer showed up. The family trust. Ivan's family had money. Not billionaire money, but enough to matter. A business passed down from his grandfather. Arlene managed most of it after her husband died. She never let Ivan touch a dime without her approval. And apparently, I had unknowingly signed documents, at Arlene's insistence, when Ivan and I married. Documents that locked me into the family trust in ways I never understood.
I was not just his wife.
I was a liability.
And now,
A weapon. I tried telling Ivan everything. I broke down.
I told him about Dean.
About the day Arlene walked in. About the messages, the photos, the folder. At first, he looked like I had just spoken a foreign language.
Then,
He laughed. Not out of humor. Out of disbelief.
she warned me, he said.
She told me you would try to paint her as the villain. That is when it hit me. Arlene had already prepared him. Already poisoned the well. I was not just alone, I was trapped. But I was not finished. If Arlene wanted power, I would show her what happens when power gets sloppy. I started digging. Quietly.
Carefully.
I remembered things she said in passing. Names she dropped. People she claimed to know. I found a burner phone hidden in her old suitcase in the attic. It was full of messages between her and someone named T. Most were encrypted or deleted, but one thread remained. Lydia suspects nothing. Dean was easy to manipulate. She still thinks it was her choice. I felt sick. I sat on the floor, shaking. It was never about attraction. It was control from the beginning. The final blow. Inside her desk drawer, behind her antique jewelry case, I found a hidden drive. It contained audio recordings of Ivan,
Of me.
of Dean, conversations, private arguments, even intimate moments. She had been listening to us for months, maybe longer. She was not protecting the family. She was the family, and everyone else was just inventory. I left Ivan the next day. I packed a single suitcase, drove to a friend's cabin 3 hours south of Chicago, and disappeared. I needed space. I needed air. I needed to remember who I was before all of this. Arlene did not chase me.
She did not need to.
She knew I had already lost everything. My marriage, my lover, my sense of self.
And worse,
I had no idea if I ever really had control in the first place. Final reflection. There is a kind of betrayal that is so deep, it leaves a scar on your identity. Yes, I was unfaithful. I made choices I regret. I hurt people who did not deserve it. But what Arlene did was different. She used my brokenness. She studied it, fed it, nurtured it, until I bloomed into something she could own. I thought I was rebelling, but I was only following her design. Now I am rebuilding.
piece by piece.
I see a therapist. I journal. I sleep with the lights on most nights. And I remind myself, not every seduction begins with desire. Some begin with power. If this story shook you even a little, I want to hear from you in the comments. What would you have done if you were Lydia? Do you believe Arlene loved her son? Or only loved the control he gave her? Drop your thoughts below, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time.
Because stories like this
Only get darker from here. Until next time.